Carcassonne is a tile placement game in which players will take turns laying tiles and claiming features with their meeples in hopes of scoring more points than their opponents to win the game. Setup is easy. Everyone will pick a color, place one meeple of their color on space 0 of the scoreboard, and the start tile will be placed in the middle of the table. You can tell which one is the start tile because the reverse side has a darker background. The remaining tiles will then be shuffled and placed in face-down stacks that are easily accessible to all players. The players will then determine who goes first, for example, the youngest player. This starting player will draw a tile from one of the stacks and connect it to the start tile. He can connect city to city, road to road, or field to field. After placing his tile, he then has the option to place one of his meeples on that tile to claim one of the features. You may never place a meeple on a tile other than the one you have just placed. He will then score any features completed by his tile placement, and play will continue clockwise to the next player around the table. What is a completed feature? A road is complete if both sides of the road have an end. This happens when the road either runs into a city, or into a roadblock, or even if it runs into a monastery, which is a tile that we'll cover in a minute. You can tell when a road has ended because the white path ends. A city is complete when it's enclosed. You can tell that a city is enclosed because the walls form a continuous border around the city. This is a monastery tile. It is complete when it is totally surrounded by 8 other tiles. A field is never complete. Even if the field is completely enclosed, it's never considered to be complete. There are no limits to how big any feature can become. To gain points from a completed feature, you must have a meeple of your color claiming that feature. Meeples placed on roads are called highwaymen. Meeples placed in cities are called knights. Meeples placed in fields are called farmers. And meeples placed in monasteries are called monks. A completed road is worth 1 point for every tile it touches. A completed city is worth 2 points for every tile it touches, and 2 points for each coat of arms within the city's borders. A completed monastery is worth 9 points, 1 for every tile that completes it, including itself. A field is worth 3 points for every completed city it touches, but it's not scored until the end of the game, and it's never considered to be completed. Once a feature has been scored, you remove your meeple from that feature, and you add it back to your supply. Now your supply is finite, so once you've placed all of your meeples, you will not be able to place any more until you complete features to get your meeples back. Whenever you score points, simply move your meeple on the scoreboard forward a number of spaces equal to the number of points scored. If you get all the way around, lay your meeple down to reflect that you've surpassed 50 points. If you make it around again, place it on its side. And if you somehow manage to make it around a 3rd time, place it on its head. This is an easy way to keep track of your points. The most important rule in Carcassonne is that if somebody has already claimed a feature, no one else is allowed to place any more meeples on that feature. Not the player who's claimed it, and not anyone else. But it is possible to connect 2 separate features and combine them into one big feature. For example, red player has placed a knight in this city. Blue player has placed a knight in another city nearby. On red's turn, he chooses to place a tile that will connect these 2 cities to create one big city. When this city is scored, both red and blue player will gain all the points for this city. They don't split the points, they don't share the points, they both get all the points. In this case, both red and blue player would gain 18 points each for this completed city. Now, say for instance, red player connects another city to this big city. thus having 2 meeples in the city as opposed to blue's 1 meeple. When this city is scored, red will have the majority in the city and will score full points, while blue will get 0 points because he did not have the majority. This is the way you can steal features from other players, and it's what makes Carcassonne so competitive. This trick, of course, also works for roads and fields. It does not work for monasteries because there's no way for anyone else to place their meeple on your monastery. Speaking of fields, when you choose to place a farmer in a field, you always lay the farmer down. This is to remove any confusion about the feature that meeple has claimed. Sometimes farmers may be touching a road or city by mistake, but because it's lying down, it's easy to see that it's a farmer and not a highwayman or a knight. Once you place a farmer, it remains there for the rest of the game. Farmers are never returned to your supply, so be certain that you are willing to lose that meeple before you place it. Every field has boundaries. Fields do not cross roads, and they do not cross cities. Once a field hits one of these features, it does not continue past that feature. Finally, you may be wondering who this funny little guy is. This is the Abbot. He can only be placed on a monastery or in a garden. The garden is exactly the same as a monastery and is scored exactly the same way, but the Abbot is the only meeple that can be placed in a garden. You're also allowed to remove and score an Abbot before the feature is complete. On your turn, if you lay a tile without placing a meeple on it, you are allowed to remove and score your Abbot instantly and add it back to your supply for later use. Play continues until all tiles have been placed, and once the last tile has been placed, the game ends and all meeples still in play are scored. An incomplete road is worth 1 point for every tile it touches, which is the same as a completed road. An incomplete city is worth 1 point for every tile it touches, and 1 point for each coat of arms within the city's borders, and this is half the value of a completed city. An incomplete monastery is worth 1 point for every tile that completes it, including itself, and a field is worth 3 points for every completed city it touches. Fields are not scored by how big they are. They are scored by how many complete cities they touch. Players then compare scores, and the one with the most points is the winner. If you enjoyed this video, please comment, like it, or subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.